GA Recap Monday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic, amazing start to your week, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. It was very busy and very tiring, but very, very, very fun. As most of you know, I had friends come in late Friday night from Arkansas, and we proceeded to be up to like 5 a.m. just goofing around and having a good time, and then getting like 4 hours of sleep maybe. And then pancakes and bacon won about 9:30, and we ended up at Denny's. Yes, it won over sleep. Bacon will win over sleep every time, almost every time. And in this case, it won. And we made up for it by sleeping till like 2 in the afternoon because we needed a nap. Otherwise, we were going to be worthless the entire weekend. But we had a really, really, really good time. I don't get to see them as much as I would like to. They live about 6 hours away, and they both work, and they're both we're all in school, and it's just trying to make time to see each other is almost impossible during the winter, especially. It's a little easier in the summer because my kids are out of school, and they have a little bit more free time. And once August hits, it's kind of like, well, we'll see you, by Christmas, hopefully. So it's just tough. But when we get together, we kind of go big or go home for that reason because we don't get to see each other very often. But we are not here to talk about my weekend shenanigans. We are here for GA Recap Monday, where I recap the newest episode of either Ghost Adventures or Ghost Adventures Aftershocks, depending on which one is airing at the time. And this week we had a brand new episode of Ghost Adventures Aftershocks, and this episode of Aftershocks, though, OMG. We have so much to talk about, I can't even deal with it. So we are going to get started because this video is going to go long. I'm just going to warn you now. We are first going to talk about the second half of the episode because the first half is probably where I'm going to talk about things the most, and the first half is really personal to me and is not going to maybe be the easiest for me to talk about. So we are going to do the easy part first, and then go into the hard stuff. Okay, thanks, bye. This episode of Aftershocks, the guys caught up with the people from Goldfield Ghost Town in Apache Junction, Arizona, and the Fear Factory in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, the Fear Factory was an old cement factory that had been converted into a haunted attraction in Utah. They went there originally back in 2013, and we met Morgan and Aaron Walton at the time. Morgan was a performer in the Fear Factory show, and his wife, Erin, was kind of just his support system. She really didn't have anything to... She was there a lot, but she didn't do anything. And this location was where the wackadoo who played Satan in the location was like reading from the Satanic Bible, and then things would start happening. I wonder why. You're poking the sleeping lion with a stick. Like, I could not get over that. Like, I still could not understand that. But Morgan began to experience a lot of negative energy. He would have things follow him home. He started hearing a little girl laughing, which we all know how that can play out. Like, typically, it's not a little girl, especially in some place like that, where you have satanic stuff going on. You have people reading from a satanic Bible, and we all know how the devil likes to portray himself as a little girl, or as little kids in general. But Morgan started having a lot of negative energy follow him home. He was very short-tempered with his wife and his kids, and it was just really, really bad. And then once he left for the season, things got better. He started, calming down and relaxing a little bit, and they had talked about it, and it had put a very big strain on Aaron and Morgan's marriage. And they talked about it, and they decided that he wouldn't go back. And then they called him again to want him to come back and work. And after they discussed it, they kind of come to a compromise where he could go back, but he couldn't work inside the attraction. Like, he couldn't be in the attraction. He had to be outside of it, which is still not okay, because in Morgan's case, he's attracted to the environment. Something there is pulling him back, and it's having a very bad effect on him. It's got this claws into him, and it wants him there. It wants to use his energy. And so he went back in, and toward the end of the season, he found himself going more and more inside the attraction. He was a manager there, so there was times where he had to go in. He never actually worked in the haunt again, but he was on the property all the time. And it got to the point where he was on the property more than he needed to be. His part did not require him to be there very much. His part did not require him to audition and like practice as much as he was there. He was almost obsessed again. And his wife started noticing the same patterns again. He was becoming very short-fused with the kids and very short-tempered with her. And he just was not himself. And so it actually, she moved out like right before Halloween. And she took the kids. And it's a sad situation when your children are thrilled because you're moving out of the house. You are leaving their dad because he is acting cray-cray cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and screaming at them all the time, and they are thrilled that they're leaving. And that's really, really sad. And at the time they did the interview, they were still separated. And it had been 5 months since he had been even within 10 feet of the Fear Factory. He cut ties when November 2nd rolled around, and that was the end of the season for the haunted house. And he's like, I'm done. Guys, don't ever call me again. I'm not coming back here. I can't do this. My wife, my kids have left me because of this place, and I am not about to come back. And he has cut pretty much all ties with the Fear Factory and everyone involved. And that is absolutely for the best. He has got to cut ties with this place, because if he doesn't, he's never going to get his family back. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he'll get his family back, period. It's really sad because you could see in her eyes how much she loved her husband, how much she loves him and wants him to be okay, how much she wants their children to have their dad back. I think she knows the man that he can be, and I think that she knows in her heart that this isn't him, and it's not something that he wants to do, but something's got a hold of him, and he has got to find it within himself to be able to leave that place for good. And I think that his wife leaving has been a big wake-up call, because I think for a long time he was in a lot of denial, and he was he was just saying, no, this isn't how it is, it's just, I get worked up and tired, and no, you have something evil there that is got its claws into you, that wants you and your soul, and you've got to get away from there. Like, he has to. And I think he's finally understanding that. And I don't really think he's going to go back. If he does, I'll be shocked. But I think that he loves his wife more than that place and the hold that it has on him. But it was a really interesting story to follow up for. I kind of always wondered about them, because I knew that their marriage had not been good at the time that they did the episode anyway. And I always wondered if they were ever going to do a catch-up with them. And I'm really glad they did, because I really wanted to see if he had really stayed away. And it's sad that he didn't stay away, but I just hope that now it's not like too little too late. Like, I just hope that it's not too late for it to be fixed, because you can tell that it's two people that really love each other, and I think there's a power struggle between good and evil between them, and evil is trying to win out. And I think that both of them are so emotionally weak that if they let any sort of a wall down at all, in a weak direction, then it's going to crumble what little piece of their marriage they have left. And so I hope that they can overcome it. I hope that they can work through it. And this was February or March that they did this episode. So I'm hoping that things have gotten even better, and that they, have worked it out, because you can just tell that they love each other and they don't want their family apart, and they don't want the spirits to win. But I was really glad they caught up with them, and I found it really interesting. Now the hard part. Oh, Lord. I need to center myself for this one. Okay. The second half of this video, which was actually the first half of Aftershocks, was really hard for me to watch. I had to take a break kind of 15-20 minutes into the episode. I had to take a break, get up, walk away, catch my breath, because it's very personal to me, and it's very personal to maybe a lot of you. So before I get into it, They caught up with Marie and Jay Yates, who are paranormal investigators who frequently investigate the Goldfield ghost town in Apache Junction, Arizona, which they went to in 2014 as part of season 10. And they had talked in the episode about spirits following them home from the bordello and things like that, being scratched. They had some evil negative energy follow them home, and it was having an effect on their personal life, which is all too common in the paranormal. What makes this episode different and what makes this Aftershocks update different is that it was having a very big effect on their son. Again, common in the paranormal. However, their son is autistic. And this is where it gets hard for me. Because my daughter is autistic. And there were a lot of similarities between their son Stephen and my daughter. While my daughter doesn't have the issues that Stephen is facing with the paranormal and seeing things, my daughter has fears that she can't communicate to me all the time. And you could tell that this family deals with that. And that's very hard. Hard for me because communication barriers are the biggest issue that parents of autistic children face. And I was very much on Jay and Marie's side with Zach, kind of poking at them a little bit about using the paranormal as a line of communication with their son. Because when he would talk about spirits and when he would talk about the paranormal, he would open up and be able to communicate. And Zach almost found that wrong in a way, and that was hard for me because I understand both sides, but I understand Jay and Marie's draw, because all you want them to do is communicate, and they can't. And when you find that one thing or those two things that their world opens up, you hold on to those so tight. Because 90% of your conversation is one-sided. You are struggling to communicate with them. And you can't. Because they can't. They can't just carry on a conversation. I'm like shaking right now. Their minds literally can't just talk about the weather, or they can't talk about, random stuff. They're very topic driven. And it was hard for me to watch Zach say, do you think you're putting your kid in danger? Do you think you're doing this? Do you think you're doing that? Because as an autism parent, you're scrutinized for every decision you make. You baby them, you cater to them, you pacify them, you overprotect them, and that's not the case at all. We are raising them. We are raising them. You treat them as normal as you can. But their normal is so different from what people perceive as normal. And so you're very protective. And I could tell that Jay and Marie were very protective of Stephen. And that's not uncommon. Because you are scrutinized as a parent every single day. With every decision that you make for those children. because you are 99% of the time as confused as they are. And when you find something that works, you use it because you don't know how long it's going to work. You don't know what it's doing for them, and you don't know what it's doing for you. And it was so hard to watch, because to hear him speak, of the way that he talked in those short, broken sentences, is my daughter. The way that he talked very fast, the way that he, wouldn't speak unless spoken to, and the thought, I think what got to me more was the thought that could be my child. That could be me. I could be dealing with that. I have, I'm an empath. I have the sensitive abilities. And to hear Dr. Powell talk about children on the spectrum of autism having, heightened abilities, I can understand very much why. Their brains go 1,000,000 miles a minute. My daughter does not stop from sunup till sundown. And even then, she doesn't sleep well. She's very go, go, go. Her brain is very heightened. And I pay attention to what she says all the time, because kids with autism generally don't have the skills to have an imagination. That is one of the biggest factors in their diagnosis, is that they lack imagination. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. Everything has a point. There's no butterflies and unicorns in Flowerland, like my 5-year-old tells me all the time. Eden is very point-oriented. She's very driven to this. There has to be a reason. Why does this happen? This happens because this happens, and this happens because this happens. And so if Eden was to come to me and say, "Mom, there's a man with 3 horns standing at the foot of my bed," I'm not going to ever look at her and say, "It's just your imagination," because I know that she doesn't have one. I've begged for her to have one. Please have an imagination. Please. Because then it would be as normal as possible. And, I'm lucky in a sense that, she's very high functioning. She can do a lot on her own. She can do almost everything on her own, but communicate. And, that's kind of where this centered, and that's, I think, why it hit hard for me, is because of the way Zach was approaching it. Are you using your son, are you using the paranormal as a way to communicate with your son? And they said yes. And he looked almost sick at the thought of that they were doing that. But that is a common line between Stephen and his parents. I'm guilty of using things, I'm guilty of doing it. Not of spirits in the paranormal, but I'm guilty of using, topics just to talk to her. Otherwise, I feel like I don't talk to her all day. Because she's in a corner, staring at the wall by herself, which she's perfectly happy about. And it breaks my heart, because she's getting to the age where we should be doing all these things, these mother-daughter things, going shopping and getting her nails done, and she wants nothing to do with any of that, because the sounds of Target make her cry, and the sounds of the smells in the nail salon make her sick, and she can't, her sensory overload can't handle those things. And so as an autism parent, you learn to relish in what they enjoy. And, for my daughter, it's cats and horses. More horses than cats, but horses and everything that pertains to horses. And so we spend time at the stable, and we spend time riding, and we spend time with the horses and reading about them and talking about them, because I get time with her. So I do not look down on Jay and Marie for what they're choosing to use as a line of communication. I think they're doing it as safely as they can. I think Steven has some abilities that he can't control. I think he's gifted and he's special, and it just so happens that his special interest is the paranormal, and that's okay. And I think that the biggest thing that this came from was awareness. Awareness for children on the spectrum, awareness for the parents that deal with it every day and day in and day out, and it helps the ones who don't to understand maybe a little bit better about why we do the things we do as parents of children like this. Autism doesn't make them who they are. It's a part of who they are. I don't treat Eden like she's autistic. I treat Eden like she's a child who has autism. I punish her. I treat her as normal as I can. But there are days that I have to walk on eggshells, and that's because she's having a bad day. And it's the lack of communication that causes the bad day, because she can't tell me that she's sad, or she can't tell me that she's angry, and so that's when we use those lines of communication. And it's tough, and I knew that this would be a very hard video for me to do, and I was right. I mean, like I said, I'm shaking. So I commend Marie and Jay for what they're doing when it comes to the paranormal, in the sense of using it to communicate with their son. And I know that they're doing it in the best way that they feel possible, and I know that they are always thinking about his best interest. And I think they want it to stop in some ways, and in some ways they don't, because then they're taking away that one line of communication that they have with him. And I know some people may think, well, can't he just talk about something else? This is Steven's thing. This is his, what they call a special interest. This is what makes Steven open. This is what opens his mind. And so when you get a hold of those things, and you keep them pretty tight, because you know that that's your ticket, your golden ticket. They want it to stop because of the effect it's having on him, and the way he's scared, and they want to take away his fear and his pain, and they want to take away that, but they don't want to lose that line. And I don't think Steven does either, but Steven can't express that. Steven can't tell him that. So it's just it was a very tough first part of Aftershocks for me. If I don't have to ever go this personal again, that's fine with me, even though I don't mind sharing my story. Because again, it's awareness for anybody, and I'm big on that. But it was just very personal and very hard. I'm proud of myself that I didn't just burst into tears, even though I got a lump this big in my throat. And as you can tell, I am squeezing the life out of my hands. I am not typical Jazzy right now. I'm a little worked up. So it was tough. But it was a very good episode. I'm very glad that it happened. I'm happy that it happened. I'm happy that it was there, because, like I said, I think it was awareness, not only for the paranormal world, but for parents of children with autism, for family members of children with autism, and for friends of parents with children with autism. I think that it was just a very informational video. I think that it was very good for it to happen, and I'm really glad it did, even though it has gotten me like 7 shades of, worked up. But that is all I have for GA Recap Monday. I will be back tomorrow for GAQA Tuesday, where I answer all of your Ghost Adventures related questions that you guys asked me all up on the Facebook page. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, have a great rest of your Monday. Bye, guys.